The standard Teams protocols apply. And immediately following this, we have a workshop which you're all cordially invited to attend. So, Morgan, any apologies for absence?
We have apologies from Councillor Jarvie and Councillor McPherson.
Okay, and I believe that there will be no apologies from Councillor Muriel Coburn. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm not seeing any pause waving, so we'll take that as read. And item 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anyone have anything to say about the minutes of the previous meeting, or can we agree on them? Okay, no dissent I can see among the ranks, so the minutes are agreed. And we now move to item 4, which is the workforce planning and development progress. And I'll move straight away to David Goldie. I think David's here.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm here. Yeah, thanks. This report provides an update on the workforce planning project. At the last meeting, the board considered the overall project objectives, work plan, project management arrangements, as well as progress to the end of September. So since the last report, we've completed the analysis of the survey questionnaire to all managers, and the high-level summary of findings is attached as Appendix 2 of the papers for today's meeting. We've also planned, organised and facilitated 10 separate workshop sessions. That allowed us to drill down and have some more detailed discussion with managers, a cross-section of managers from different levels across different services and different areas of the council. The project team meeting on Monday spent some time looking at the feedback received from those workshop sessions. At this stage, we're still pulling together everything for reporting purposes, but there are some sort of key themes emerging, and I suppose the first of those is really strong support from managers for the principles and objectives of workforce planning. Secondly, and John missed this on Monday, but he and Paul hopefully be pleased to hear very strong support for collaboration with the trade unions, with the existing partnership agreement, and with the more local service-based engagement that we have. You know, inevitably sometimes these meetings can be complicated and tricky and not always feel smooth, but I think, you know, managers certainly think we've got the arrangements right with trade union involvement. Strong support for developing more flexibility and making it easier for people to move within and across the organisation. Support for focusing more on core skills and competencies, and for developing and enabling clearer career paths for people within the organisation linked to personal development plans. And also we got some specific feedback on data requirements and the types of data that managers feel would be helpful for them in terms of workforce planning, which will feed into the data project. And some of those are also written up in Appendix 2 of the papers today. So the next step is we need a little bit of time just to pull everything together from the various engagement sessions we've done to make sure we've captured all the outputs, and we'll provide a further report to the next redesign boards, pulling together the findings and recommendations arising from all of that engagement work. So I'm happy to answer any questions that any members have.
Raymond, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, I just put my hand up there. I was waiting to see if anybody else was going to come in. There's a couple of things I would like to add, and also a question for the record, David, if you don't mind. Apart from the fact I've been delighted to work with this project, and there is an agreement within the team that's delivering this that we have got traction, and we were wondering if, you know, there was a bit of a concern about the traction of this, but it has got traction now. I think that we've been quite reassured and surprised pleasantly with the information and the level of information that's coming back. I think it's going to be good for us to be able to facilitate the discussion going forward. I also want to put on record the fact that, you know, given my time with council and the lack of opportunity sometimes there is to engage with the unions, this and one other opportunity afforded me since I've become leader of the opposition has allowed me to work with unions and understand how much they get the ability to input into projects, and I can say it has. I'm enthused with the way that they have so actively engaged with us. So John and Paul, you should note that if there's any place to put it on record, it's here, and challenging things robustly as well as contribution. David, there are things that have been coming out of our meetings and out of the feedback from managers and the survey that we have considered are not in scope, but they are of importance, matters of importance, and not only officers but members and the unions have recognised that. And I think we would need to let people know how it is that those issues are going to be taken forward, so that they're not just dismissed as being out of scope, but they are very much in scope, and that we will be actually dealing with them in some other format within council. And I know that I've also brought that to the attention of the convener and the chair of the redesign board as well. But I think it would be good to put on record how we are going to deal with that.
David, Liz, you want to pick up on the point that Raymond's just made? Liz?
Yep, certainly. I think what we could certainly do in our next update to this meeting is identify the items that have been raised that are out of scope, and actually just give that actual summary of which services would deal with them and how we would propose to take those matters forward. And also, I think the other thing, just for noting at this meeting, there's a lot of things where the workforce planning is absolutely linked into some of the other projects. So therefore they're out of scope for workforce planning, but there's a good chance that they're actually linked into the workforce data project or something else. So it's we can provide all of that information too, because there's a lot of work going on just now, lots of other projects.
Okay, members, any other points? John.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment back on what Raymond has said about working together. You know, Paul and I represent different unions, but we're here to represent the workforce of the Highland Council. As part of the way councils work, we're all part of collective agreements, and we're representing the people managers, and we also represent the people on the ground. So any change in workforce planning should involve the people that represent the workforce, and that's a good thing to do. I'm not sure if you've ever watched the film about the strikes that Ford had in the 1960s, but their attitude towards unions was very, very bad, because at the same period of an industrial unrest, their competitor Vauxhall had no strikes because they involved their workforce from the very beginning in all that they sought to do. And there are great examples from history. I'm really chuffed to be involved in all of these projects, and if I can help the council and represent and help my members at the same time, then I'll continue to do that. We won't always agree, but you know, it's always good to talk.
Yeah, John, I think there's no doubt about it. Since the inception of the redesign board, the really big advantage it's had is the fact that members, senior staff, the unions and staff right down to the bottom have engaged with the process, have taken the process on board, and we could never have delivered anything without the input of the staff. Because after all, in the majority of cases, staff are the experts on the stuff that we're talking about. So we need to listen. And I think that's what the redesign board has been really good at. And it's why I've always been a really big supporter of the redesign board. Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I mean, echo John's comments, but can I also just, I'm looking at the paper, and it is a bit of a criticism. It's all management focused at the moment, and I'm not seeing where the staff themselves become involved in workforce planning. If we're looking to be more flexible, agile, you know, more engagement, picking up on what John's saying, you know, working with the staff. At what point are we going to involve them in this process then?
That's a very good point. David?
I'm happy to try and come in too.
Okay,
if
that
that's,
was- yeah.
I think the important thing is that this is workforce planning, so it is much more of that strategic overview and what we're doing in terms of how the council manages workforce planning. Once we get agreement on the strategy and then how we're taking forward workforce planning, then of course there has to be conversations with all of our staff, and I see us cascading that down through our management teams to staff, and also to get some feedback though back up the way from the staff to make sure that the proposals are correct, because we know that the people that know how things are operating best are usually those at the coalface. So we'll certainly be doing that bit of comms at the right time. But this is about how we manage the workforce. So it is about that wider picture though, in terms of, you know, do we know our workforce and what are our strengths and weaknesses, and how do we make sure that we're managing that for the future, and what type of workforce do we need? So there is that managerial element in it just now, because that is the correct thing at the moment. But we do need that two-way communication during this process. So before anything's finalised, we need to make sure that we've done that too.
I'll let you in first, Derek, because once Raymond starts to speak, we'll be here till 5 o'clock. So, Derek.
I better not say what he was going to say then. Then I'll be in a lot of trouble. No, it's really what Paul's saying. Yeah, this is at its best, it can be a two-way process with benefits for the employer and for the employees. And I think Paul's right to kind of stress that. What I think you're looking for is the kind of career progression side of things that I think the unions have brought to this, and also the sort of training and development opportunities that their staff want. And also, you know, I've repeated myself a few times on the skills audit, and you know, identifying what skills staff have that mean that they could walk in to higher up roles if something goes wrong as a result of COVID. You know, rather than us scrabbling about trying to find a manager, we kind of identified people who can fill those roles already. So yeah, if those are the things that Paul's talking about, yeah, you know, we want to see that this as a two-way benefit for employers and employees.
Raymond.
Yeah, sure. A good element of what Derek was saying there just now. But for Paul, Paul, the way that I'm as the vice chair of Redesign, and also one of the members on this particular group, I think so far, if it's the work of the workforce strategy project is outlined in the scope, and it is primarily at the moment is understanding workforce planning as a management tool within council, and I think that's actually detailed for you there in the report on 8.2, where it gives you the milestones, and it's the workforce planning management tools identified and the workforce planning management tools delivered. And in that, within the scope of that, it has shown, and this goes down as far as I can remember to HC3, Liz, if you can, John's nodding his head there just now, HC3. So in itself, the workforce planning project has covered a great number of the employees right down to HC3, all important roles. But remember, when we're talking about using management workforce management tools, we're talking about the ability to be able to strengthen, diversify, offer opportunity for all employees. The benefit will be for employees if we get the workforce management tools correct. This will be of benefit to all employees across the board, and I think that's what we were making sure this workforce management planning was all about was because maybe it wasn't as it wasn't delivering the benefits to employees as maybe it should have been previously. And I think that discussion was held right at the beginning of this project here. I have another question, if you don't mind me asking, Convener, but in terms of what Paul was saying there just now, how do we feed back to the employees, because it will be of importance to them, and to Paul and John? How do we feed back to the employee base of Highland Council what the outcomes of this are going to be, and also for those that took part in the survey, the feedback to them? Thank you.
Liz.
At the moment, I suppose honestly, I'm not sure how we will do it, but on a positive, what I should say is that we've actually just employed someone that's going to be looking at the internal comms with all of our staff and how we make sure we improve on that and make sure that we're using the correct media. So it'll be different approaches for different staff groups. So it's something that we're actually taking forward. So I think it's a really good question, and we need to add that one, I think, to the list of all the other things where we're looking to communicate with staff. But we now have someone who is actually employed just to look at those matters for us.
Matt.
Yeah, just to add to what Liz has just said, I think what we'd be wanting to do with the strategy, so if the strategy is reworked and goes through, the aim at the moment is to put that formally through Corporate Resources Committee in February, towards the end of February, if there are to be changes. But even so, we would report that through that committee. The critical thing, though, is on the back of that, what we'd want to do at the right time, through yourself, Liz, and the folk who are looking at this, is relaunch the strategy. So there's no point just saying, oh, we'll tweak the strategy and so on and so forth. It is to really get out there, really relaunch the strategy and what that really means in practical terms on the ground. And I think that's the opportunity then to really, say to all staff across the organisation, this is the work, the good work that's been done. This is what it means to staff, and this is how it will be sort of taken forward with you and with your managers. So that would be the opportunity for me. I would suggest, in terms of the timescales we're working to, around about springtime.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much agreed that organisations work better when staff know what's going on. Keeping things behind closed doors doesn't work. It's much better if we can explain to staff what's going on rather than finding out by leading the local press. So I think that's really quite important. It was a good thing to raise, Paul. Thanks. Anyone else?
Convener, can I just ask if Matt can send an invitation to Councillor Boyd? He's just been in contact saying that he is not able to get into the meeting and would like to receive an invite. If Matt could arrange that.
Yeah, I'll do that just now.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other questions, so I think that takes us nearly to the end. I see a smile come across Liz's face that she can disappear off and into the world of